So what's up guys, welcome again to Kanji Club. Today we're going to continue how to write hiragana. Please review my other videos, we covered some of the hiraganas. So in the previous videos we covered the A line or the vowels A, I, U, E, O. We covered ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. We covered sa, shi, su, se, so. So the A and K and S lines are covered in the previous videos. Please review my previous videos. Okay? These are the ones we covered. Okay? Now, so today we're going to talk about the T line. Ta, chi, tsu, te, to. I think this is an easy line relatively to the other lines. Here, of course, we start by making the dimensions, the horizontal and the vertical line. Okay? And we try to correlate between the strokes. So we control the proportions of the strokes within the hiragana letters, so it keeps the balance. So anyway, we start by the first stroke, second, third, and fourth. Knowing stroke order only will not help you to keep the balance, okay, to write the vertical line. Anyway, so first, second, and third. To keep the balance, please try to notice that the size or the distance from midline to this, if we draw a line here, imaginary line here, touching the tip of the first stroke, okay, it will be parallel to the midline. And if we draw another line here, okay, touching the end of these two strokes, it will be a parallel line. So you will find that the distance here and the distance here are equal. This will keep the balance. So the midline and imaginary line here, all parallel to each other. If you measure the distance, it's almost equals. Okay? And the first line stops in the midline, very close to the horizontal line, and this stroke also very close to the horizontal line. This, if you know this information, when you deal with this ta that has no lines, no horizontal, no dimensional lines, you can figure out where to write it, because we consider hiraganas as shapes, okay, not only sounds. So here is the midline, the horizontal midline, and when you draw the vertical midline, it touches the end of the first stroke, okay, and it goes down. There's a space here, some space between the first and the second, the third and the fourth stroke between them and the midline, the vertical midline. Now, the end of this second stroke, okay, if you notice, if you draw imaginary line, vertical imaginary line to the horizontal, you leave a space a little bit, and then this is the location where you need to put your fourth stroke. Okay? If you know these details, you will keep your ta, every time you write it, balanced. So the space between the three imaginary lines, 1, 2, 3, parallel to each other, space here equals. The end here, you draw imaginary line, a little bit of space, then you draw your fourth stroke. If you know this information, when you start to practice, you will practice your hand depending on these dimensions, to apply these dimensions in your writing. Now next, chi. Chi, first stroke, second stroke. Okay? First stroke, second stroke. Now the first stroke, a little bit oblique. It crosses the midline, the vertical midline, and then this the second stroke is almost on the midline, but bends a little bit, or oblique little bit. Now, some people leave like a third to 2/3. I prefer to leave a third to 2/3. Okay. When I started to bend, okay, to make as a circle. Please try to notice that this is almost a line actually. I'm starting to create a circle, almost a line. Okay, so it's very small, a hump. It's very small hump. Can you see that? Okay, so my eyes are trained now to see the dimensions. Okay, and once if I draw here imaginary line parallel to the horizontal midline, once I make this line, once I reach it, I bend it to reach the midline. You see? So my hand, as if somebody holding my hand. Now I know by these parallel lines, where do I bend my the end of this stroke to reach the midline. Okay, please try to use these notes. Now, tsu. So we cover ta and chi, and now tsu, tsu. So if you draw first line and the middle line, you'll see that is the upper part. It's really very close to a straight line. If you think about it this way, it's very close to straight line, right? Okay. Now, when you would like to, I sometimes take it like half and half, like half here and almost the distance, the similar distance, same distance. Maybe this one is a little bit smaller, but the same distance, if I have a midline in mind. So once I have almost the same sentence, I bend my stroke, okay, to reach the end of this, to touch the, to make the, to touch the vertical line. Bear in mind, this is like a circle here, so it's almost like a circle, almost like a circle with a straight line on this side. Okay, so it's really easy, but if you know where to bend it and how long you should extend your stroke, use the midline as a guide to decide where you stop. Okay, now next, te is when you try to write this oblique line, you cross the midline. You have to bear in mind that this end will decide where do you stop at the end of the stroke. So once I reach, it's almost 50-50, almost. Okay, so keep in mind the sizes, like the measurements, like equal measurements, right and left. It will help you a lot. And then when I bend here, I stop here. If there is an imaginary line here, I leave a space here and here where I need to stop, the te. So here is a parallel line. When I write down the te, when I would like to stop, I will consider this as my guidance. So this, I go back to the midline, touching almost all of it, just bend it in the end and leave a small space to reach the parallel line. Some people, and many actually, when they write te, it's really long. That's not the right way. The right way is to use this as your guidance, to draw an imaginary line and stop just before the imaginary line, which is parallel to the vertical line. Now next, the toe. The toe, here you have like a 90 degree, okay, first stroke, and second stroke. Same principle, use imaginary line parallel to the middle line or the vertical midline. Okay, when you have this midline, this vertical parallel line, the end, you decide the end will stop just before the midline. You don't reach it, you stop before it. But this one is your guide to decide where you stop. And this line is parallel to the midline. So you can see that the midline, how does it control the whole hiragana letter? By the parallel lines, by decided, for example, how the length of the strokes. Sometimes if you have like a straight line, like 2/3 to 3rd, and so on. Anyway, guys, in toe, please be mindful that this is almost straight, and once you reach this angle, you're gonna bend. So it's almost like a circle here, but it's not circular really. It's not circular. Circle is only if there is a circle here where it's gonna bend. Okay, guys, I hope this helps. T-line, the T to Teto are really easy. You just need to know some principle about the where do you need to stop and the parallel lines. If you have any other ways, please share it with us, and show us if this show us your handwriting, if in case this helps you. And see you guys. Stay tuned for the next video where we're gonna cover the N line na nino nino. See you guys.